I'm Catherine Ross, and I'm here live from New Jersey with Jim Cramer. Jim, what's top of mind for you this morning?
Top of mind, first, no joke, I touched the door handle, okay? And I touched the door handle even though it was wiped down 2 hours ago. That's not enough. I will do this for 20 seconds while we talk. Why? Because the real problem we have right now is that we don't have the faith and courage to be able to buy stocks because we are worried about our health. And I think that that's perfectly reasonable. Health comes before anything. Second thing that's on my mind is my interview with Secretary Mnuchin, where he gave us the magic words, which is like in 1987, Terrible Tuesday. He stands behind it. He stands behind the market, and he stands behind liquidity, which should therefore allow us to pick stocks, particularly stocks that yield good numbers where the yield can be paid.
I have to ask, when you were on air, did you happen to see the Xerox statement that crossed the wires?
I understand that they did what we were hoping, that they understood that these times are different and they shouldn't pursue what I regard as a reckless debt takedown, particularly at a time when I could understand that both businesses are going to sour. If you ask me whether I would buy the stock of HP right here, I think that you can, as I've said. I mean, I was going to buy one of the new just unbelievable, the Dragonfly, I'm trying to remember the exact name, but I was going to buy one of those PCs personally because I'm not happy with the PC I have, courtesy of my old company, TheStreet, and the idea of buying it was so good a month ago, and now it seems foolish. Why not make do with what I have? Believe me, that's a common refrain right now in America, and I'm sure it's also a refrain for people who are trying to buy Xerox machines or offering what Xerox does. So that was prudent. I'm glad they did it. I was willing to attack them the way I attacked Vicky Holub at Occidental, who I thought was being foolish, trying to get into a gunfight with Mike Wirth, who's the CEO of Chevron. I pleaded and pleaded and pleaded that she not wreck Occidental, which is a good company that's been around a long time. And she didn't listen, and she wrecked it. And, Catherine, it's really important to know the role that I think I play, okay? I want to work for many years. My father had a big month before he died. I didn't know because I didn't pay taxes on it. I didn't think he made money. He told me he had retired. So I know at 92 he was still going strong. I intend to play for a long time, but I intend to have a different role. My role is going to be trying to get companies to be worried about their carbon footprint, and hence why I don't recommend any oil stocks. But it's also to say when I think that younger CEOs are being foolish. Or CEOs who are inexperienced being foolish, because I regard my job as to try to protect people's money. And I didn't want people who either would buy bonds or be involved in that situation to feel at all complacent, because I think that the company would be bankrupt within 2 years. So if I'm going to play my job as be what I can be, I have to be a commentator, not just a reporter. And some people may not like that. But when I say that the Xerox deal would be the height of folly, which, by the way, right now Occidental is, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to hide behind some sort of journalistic shield. I regard it as my job to try to preserve our viewers' money. And Kathy Holub at Occidental made it impossible to preserve our viewers' money, and so was Xerox. So I'm glad that they dropped it. It's good to show common sense and not just be fee-oriented. My new hero is Adam Silver, head of the NBA, who, without even speaking to say, Mark Cuban, who's such a great guy, cancels the season. And he canceled the season because he cared about health more than money. I wish I had the luxury of being able to just care about health. I'm not Dr. Fauci. I have to care about the interaction between health and money without being callous. And when I see what happened to Occidental, and I see what almost happened to a fine company like HP, I am glad that Xerox relented, and ashamed that Holub didn't listen to me. I guess I wasn't strong enough.
For full disclosure, I do have a family member that works at HP. Jim, let's talk about your real money column this morning. You talked about how important it is to be able to reevaluate on the fly and how difficult that is. Yeah. So for investors doing that this morning, what's 3 quick tips?
Sure. Well, first, you don't buy up. We're using Karen Cramer rules here, and Karen, who I talk to Karen pretty much every day of my life. I don't talk about what stocks to buy because that would violate my personal rules and rules that I'm sure exist somewhere. But her rule was you can never buy up. And the way she never would be as polite as that, she would say, "You're an idiot. The time to buy was yesterday." And it always hurt because what it said was, well, I liked Disney so much, but I didn't have the guts to buy it yesterday, so now I missed it. So when you have an up opening, you missed it. Okay, you just missed it, and that's okay. There are trains coming around all the time, but you never buy an up opening, even if it means that it's going to continue to go up because you missed it. And someone might just say, Jim, that's not true. If you look at Disney at 95, it could be at 150. Who cares? And I say, well, the answer is I care. And you might think that I'm small-minded, but the odds favor the market to come back because nothing's changed other than the promises of the Treasury Secretary. We're still in the early stages, as Dr. Fauci would say, of the illness. We don't want the illness, obviously. I mean, I have to evaluate all aspects of my life, and I also want to put money to work in my 401k. But until I know from the Treasury Secretary that there are no limits and I can buy when I want to and buy and put more money to work, I'm afraid that there's a limited amount of money, and I don't want to commit it yet. I am itching to commit. I did commit. For my IRA, I committed about a third of the cash that I had, and it was bad. I committed it too high. I thought the market is already down 20%. I thought it was right. It was obviously premature. But the next level has to be down 30%, and I'm disciplined with that money. Why? Because there's a finite amount of money you can contribute. But I want people to buy in stages. I want people to buy companies that have good yield but can afford the dividend. Many of the companies that have very high yield cannot afford the dividend, by the way. And I want people to be patient. Don't buy all today. We're going to have a series of headlines over the next 2-3 months that are going to be very negative. And remember, South Korea, we're now heralding that they beat it. Well, did they beat it? I don't know. I mean, they had the kits. And the kits really do help. And if we have the roast kits, that would be terrific. But, Catherine, even if there was no coronavirus, if there was no COVID, I would never say you got to just be all in right now because it's down a lot. It just doesn't work like that.
So where can investors find optimism after a day like yesterday where the Dow closed down 9.99%?
The only way you can find optimism is that Treasury Secretary Mnuchin told us that the money will be there to keep the system alive. The system broke very badly in October of 1987, and having traded, I came in only with J&J puts on Monday, and I wanted to sell the puts which I could therefore make my month on, and I couldn't. It didn't work. So get in and say, listen, I'd like to sell a couple hundred J&J puts. Well, I'm sorry, we don't know where the market is. Then I go to another firm. We don't know the market. Another firm. We don't know the market. So I wasn't able to because we didn't know where J&J Common was. There was a moment during that the crash where 3M was something like 30 bid, 50 offered. Caterpillar was like, the spread was maybe 25 points, and you didn't know where to buy, and you didn't get any confirms, and you didn't know where you were. And I was trying to rebuild and put money to work, but you really couldn't because the offered side was so high. The system, Catherine, had totally broken down. And that's not happening now. It doesn't mean it can't go lower, but it does help to hear from the Treasury Secretary that that kind of illiquidity is they're aware of it and they don't want it.
And I want to get your exclusive insights on your interview with Mnuchin, but I want to do that over on our Action Alerts Plus Daily Rundown show, which we film right after this. Before we get to that, though, Warren Buffett announced that Berkshire Hathaway's meeting will be held without attendees this year. And that just follows a slew of concerts, of conferences, of all these different events. I'm wondering if this outbreak is pushing us into the new virtual reality.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's why Zoom is still going to be a good stock to buy. We have DocuSign on tonight. That's going to be a good stock to buy. It had an excellent quarter. Stay-at-home economy is very real. We're going to be learning that we can do a lot of things at home, and that those stocks may not all go up at once, but they're good. I mean, I look at an Etsy. I look at Shopify, and I know that there's still Etsy's not that high. Shopify is still high. But if you're a millennial, you buy Shopify today. You put some money to work. You call Robinhood, whatever. You buy that. I do think that there are opportunities. I mentioned Verizon is one, Pfizer's one, where you can build a portfolio that yields good. And the problem with the S&P index fund buyer is that buyer is getting low income. Okay, and I'm trying to say, listen, I've got Faith in Dominion paying its bills, and American Electric Power paying, Southern paying, Con Ed, and that this is your opportunity if you're older to get some, to really get some good income coming in. This is not EPR where they had to slash and burn, and that's unfortunate. A lot of the REITs I think are poorly priced, but I do think that for a younger person, what a terrific opportunity to be able to buy a sliver of some of the great stocks, Alphabet and even Facebook. Facebook, the numbers are too high. But when you get a stock that's down 80, what's it going to do is go down another 10, maybe 15. That's an opportunity.
Now, this has been a wild week for the markets.
Yes, it has.
And, right? So let's look into the weekend and let's look into next week. What's your advice for any investor right now?
Well, you have to understand that every day we come in, there's going to be more deaths. And there's going to be more infections. And then when we get the kits, please get the kits, then you're going to see a big spike in the number of people who are infected. And that's going to be freaky. And so you need the capital for when that happens. Obviously, don't want to spend too much because you may need the capital for if you get sick. One of the things I think we're going to discover is we heard today that not from the news, not a lot of people once they started testing actually had it, and I look to that to try to what call is flatten the curve. Okay, what we want to do is make it so that the disease is spread out and don't all get it at once, but it's flattened so that we don't have an overload of the public healthcare system that doesn't have enough ventilators, doesn't have enough beds, doesn't have enough ICU. In Italy, they're triaging, and triaging is always just unbelievable, which is that they're letting some people die who are in a situation where they were poor health ahead of time, maybe obese, maybe diabetes, maybe heart condition, and they're letting them die. There are people here watching who are probably saying, but that difference is that the Italian healthcare system is awful. And I'm here to tell you that that's completely untrue. Having done work with one of my employees in Italy, where we could get any hospital because we care tremendously, all the choices were good, and the hospitals were amazing, and to the point where there was a doctor who said to me after my assistant had an operation and I was leaving, he said, "You should stay for the pasta, it's excellent."
Wow. That's quite, wow, okay.
Clean, fabulous, smart doctors, just so gracious. Now you had to wait because it's a socialized medicine. My employee had to wait to get her operation, but it was an extraordinary. I spent a lot of time speaking to a lot of doctors, and this university hospital. The university hospitals there are extraordinary, but it had to do with the number of beds. I mean, you can overwhelm an ICU no matter how, and they went on lockdown. We don't really understand how. There are a tremendous number of Chinese in Iran and tremendous number of Chinese in Italy. In Italy, Fashion Week, I was in Fashion Week the year before, the Chinese descend to buy and also to copy. In Iran, it's a Belt and Road Initiative. They very much committed to the regime. So there's a plethora of Chinese in both places. In Milan, there are signs everywhere for the Belt and Road Initiative. The Chinese have made such a commitment to Italy. I wonder whether the commitment will now be viewed as one of the causes.
Interesting take. Did you stay for the pasta, by the way?
I'm sorry?
Did you stay for the pasta?
No, I couldn't. They were running late, and candidly, my 37-year-old employee wanted to get some sleep and didn't want me to wait for the pasta.
That's fair. All right, Jim, thanks for joining us today.
Ghosh, whom I love so much. And sadly, her partner passed away of a sudden heart attack about 2 months ago. Just a kind, good man. And Łukasz, they were from Poland. And Lisa had to fly back in order to get the funeral done because the Italian government was just so bad about trying to get, sadly, to have a body leave Italy to go to Poland. And my wife drove from Florence to a very small town in southern Poland to get that done. It was near Krakow. Italy's an amazing country. It's not so good if that part of the mafia controls the funerals.
Well, I'm very sorry to hear that.
He's a great guy. Jeez, I love the guy. But yeah, the healthcare system is, even when they were trying to get it so they could revive him and they couldn't, healthcare system was totally on the case. Totally.
All right, Jim, thank you for joining us today. Guys, thanks for watching. Jim and I, of course, are working so hard to answer all of the questions that you have about this market right now.
Trying to help.
So, of course, send them in via Twitter at TheStreet or at by Catherine Ross or at Jim Cramer. We will try to answer every question that you send in, so thank you very much for that. And, of course, you should now follow us on over to actionalertsplus.com where we're going to host our daily rundown show. We'll see you there. I'm Catherine Ross, and I'll see you on Monday.